All right, and there's the green light. We're live. Good morning, everybody. Guess what day it is?
Win. This guy so much sack. He protect, he attack. This why no more homo erotic rocket ranches. Got it? Got it. Oh jeez. So much wang.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna need to go back and watch this episode as soon as we're off because I was not hearing the Totar Win music there. But it's Totar Win Thursday, and who's the Totar Win go to this week? Come on, Cameron, tell him.
Donny one scoop.
So what we're gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about how this clown show got her face punched by think.
Buddy, you might have muted yourself. I'm suddenly not hearing you. Can you hear me? Oh, there he is.
About now?
Nope.
No?
Yep, there we go.
Okay.
Clown show.
Okay, yeah, cloud show. Sorry about that. My microphone just gave up for a minute there. But let's start with this one.
And your relationship, but you did something that triggered a lot of people yesterday, including myself, by releasing the name of the whistleblower.
Lie. Right there. We're that far in, and we start with, I think you did something wrong. Here's the thing I think you did wrong. You released the name of the whistleblower. That's a lie. She knows up top that's a lie. Because the thing that she's suggesting is that somehow DJT, somehow Donald Trump Jr. got his hands on the name of the whistleblower before anybody else and broke this news. And it's painful to listen to, but later on in the interview, not much later, but Whoopie starts to go on and on and on. I don't know who the Drudge Report is. Who knows who the Drudge Report is? Nobody's heard of the Drudge Report. I don't know who listens to the Drudge Report, but I know a lot of people know your name. So it's different when you tweet it out because more people know your name than that. It's the Drudge Report.
Yeah, the guy that made the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky happen 20-something years ago. Yeah, that Matt Drudge.
Yep.
Literally that one.
Believe it or not, a few people have heard about this. And let's be real. The Drudge Report is almost on par with the AP, with the Associated Press, for being a go-to source for journalists to find what stories are being talked about so they can decide what stories they want to look deeper into. So, just, here's the thing. Let me clue you in a little bit on how journalism works. It is a rare bird that an individual journalist breaks a big story. Usually what happens is somebody writes an op-ed or a very short blurb about something that seems like it might turn out to be interesting. And a crap load of those happen. And then professional journalists read through buckets of that kind of stuff. And then when something catches their eye as being particularly interesting to them, either it's something that they have a personal interest in, a personal passion about, they have a political interest in, or they think it's going to be a big enough story that there will be a big paycheck at the end of it, or it's just so newsworthy and important that they're, well, no, I mean, the idealist journalist just doesn't exist anymore. They're all propagandists and paycheck hounds. And don't get me wrong, I love my dollars, but the Drudge Report is up there with AP in that way. That's where you go when you want to sift through the buckets and buckets of menial nothing to try and find the gem that you are going to dig into and break the story on. So, you'll see a headline like, there's some shady stuff going on at ABC Corp. And you, the journalist, think, oh, hey, I know this person, and this person that I could call and ask questions of. And then you do that follow-up. And that's how you build a story. So, I mean, just right off the cuff, they open off just lying. Because the Drudge Report broke the story. The Drudge Report didn't break the story. The Drudge Report was reporting the story. It was broken? It was broken by the New York Times, wasn't it?
I don't remember who originally broke it, but the real irony of it is in those leaked documents that were coming from Schiff's skiff.
He forgot to redact the name.
Yeah, he forgot to redact the name. And not to go too far into it, but Adam Schiff claimed to not know who the whistleblower was in the testimony yesterday. So, I mean, they're all lying. And that, like I was saying a couple of weeks ago, it should be the case that at a minimum, even if we don't make it a part of the oath when you swear in that every word you speak as an oath sworn elected representative of the people of the United States is held under oath. At a minimum, every time you open one of these hearings, every person on the panel, everybody who's going to speak on the record should be speaking under oath every single time. So when Adam Schiff says he doesn't know the whistleblower, he's not just lying. He's perjuring himself. But let's move forward with this.
The whistleblower's complaint has now led to impeachment hearings. The whole point of releasing a name is to intimidate someone, to threaten someone, and to scare other people from...
Okay. There is some merit to her claim here. That the whole point to releasing the name, and I think you know where I'm probably going with this. There is some merit to her claim that the whole point to releasing a name is to intimidate, so on and so forth. We call it doxing. Now, clearly that's not what Donald Trump did here because, well, like he's about to explain, we're going to skip over a lot of basically everything that Donald Trump actually says in response to these women, because this whole interview is an absolute shit show. Every time he tries to open his mouth, they just henpeck and scream over him. It's not like he's having a conversation with men who can speak rationally to one another. He's having a conversation with a bunch of cackling hens who just cannot tolerate the idea that a man would speak in front of them. And they're so bad about it that they cackle and hackle over one another. But in the case of what Donald Trump did, he shared an article that included the name of the whistleblower. So even the thing that she's making the accusation of, she did not do. Now, I want to show you something interesting real quick. We're just going to grab, I'm just going to grab up a fresh browser and say, CNN's a good one. CNN, just the word CNN doxes. Doxes elderly Trump supporter. Doxes elderly Florida woman. Doxes a baby. Doxes satire author. Right? Doxes Reddit user for Trump gif. Y'all remember this one, right? Han Assolo. That's the thing that she's accusing him of is a common practice on the left. Let's see. New York Times. Doxes. Cancel New York Times trends after the newspaper doxes the intelligence whistleblower by disclosing his or her job. Okay, there it was. Like I said, it was the New York Times. So, New York Times doxes Trump allies, right? Legal fund for doxed Trump supporter, so on and so forth. So first thing, her claim that he has done this is false because somebody else released it first. re-reporting on a thing that is reported is not the same as reporting on a thing. Second point, this is a common practice by the left. And let me tell you, her claim earlier that the whole point to doxing is to threaten, intimidate, so on and so forth. I have often said, and I stand by this, every time you dox someone, every time you actually dox someone, that should be treated as attempted murder. Case in point, think back to the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case, when Spike Jonze tweeted out what he believed to be the address of George Zimmerman. In that case, it was very, very clear once all the violent protesters and Black Panther cats started showing up at the address, it was made very clear very quickly that the only reason a murder was not resultant from that tweet is because Spike Jonze incompetently tweeted out the wrong address. And by the grace of a merciful God alone, these ravenous, murderous monsters politely decided not to murder the poor random elderly couple that had the gross misfortune of living at what they believed to be Zimmerman's address.
Well, we talked about it before. The left projects, and this is projection because they accuse everybody else of racism because they themselves are racist. And
oh yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute too.
And if they see this as some type of implied threat, they see it that way because it would be an implied threat if they did it. And just parliamentary point here, I personally would refer to doxing as a terroristic threat as opposed to attempted murder. But I think we're at least swimming in the same stream there. But, whatever.
Oh, no. I'm going to give you a lot of pushback on that, actually. When you make a terroristic threat, you have made a threat that you may or may not follow through with. With doxing, once you have done the doxing, it's as if you have fired the bullet. So once you have pulled that trigger and fired the dox, the difference with the terroristic threat, if I threaten to murder you in the event that you don't comply with a particular demand, it is still possible for me to determine that I will not follow through with that threat. In the case of doxing, what I have done is I have charged an unknown number of people in upwards of the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, to do violence on my behalf because I have given them a target to attack. Once I have fired that round, I can no longer just put it back in the chamber. I can't unpull that trigger. And that's why there's a difference between doxing. That's why doxing is worse than making a terroristic threat. Because if I personally make a terroristic threat, then it is still possible for me personally not to follow through with it. The same cannot be said of doxing.
Right. Well, different argument, different day.
Yes. Okay.
Coming out, that's something that dictators do.
Oh, dictators.
Isn't she adorable?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
She is.
And nothing else she says is worthwhile or interesting. And you don't get to hear anything out of poor Donald because they just bully over him. Yammer, yammer, yammer. Yammer, yammer, yammer. And Jesus, what is that thing on her head?
I know. I love John Ward's take on it. It said this is what happens when an upside-down mop has a cigarette habit.
Prosecutor, I mean, did you advise your boyfriend that it is a federal crime to out a whistleblower?
I didn't advise him that it was
It is not. In this particular case especially, and they keep using this word whistleblower. We're talking about somebody who has a clear political bias, who is clearly implicated. What's his name? Is it Eric Charmella?
I've heard the last name pronounced a couple of different ways.
Well, the last name is Charmella. What is the first name?
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Eric.
Okay, yeah, Eric Charmella. So
Eric Charcoal.
So Charmella is not only a clearly biased political actor. It is probable from the evidence at hand that he is part of the original coup conspiracy group that was investigated around Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. That he is the Eric that was referred to in the text messages where they were talking about having a plan in place to conduct a coup if Donald Trump won the election. So to be very clear, we're talking about a coup that has been in progress since before Donald Trump was elected. They started operating the coup so that it would already be ongoing in the event that Trump won the White House, which is clearly what happened. And as they point out in here, but I don't think it's part of my playback. As they point out in this interview, though, on The View, these hackling, chicken-headed nut jobs, they were cackling about impeachment literally the day after the inauguration. The first articles about, not articles of impeachment, the first newspaper articles run in the major journals with the expectation that Donald Trump would be impeached were the day after the election.
Yeah, he hadn't even been sworn in yet. Like, let's be real clear. Right, we've all been primed for this moment.
The day after the election, nearly a full fiscal quarter prior to the inauguration, the press was calling for impeachment. These chuckleheads were calling for impeachment at the latest a day after the inauguration. Impeachment has never been a question of serving justice or solving the problem of a dangerous president. The impeachment question with Donald Trump has only, as it has been with every Republican president since Eisenhower, the question of impeachment has only been one of reversing the election. Democrats detest democracy.
It's true. It's true. Okay.
Just like the Patriot Act was one of the most unpatriotic things ever done by a Democrat president. And yes, I understand it was done by George W. Bush. And don't you dare try to change my mind on that narrow-eyed son of a bitch. That was a Democrat riding an elephant into an absolute fraud. And that sham of a president was barely less a commie than Obama. But just like the Patriot Act, which was grossly unpatriotic, just like the Affordable Care Act, which multiplied your insurance costs by 1,000%, and just like the claims of impeachment, the name of the Democrat Party is literally a mirror image of the truth.
Yeah, good morning, Gavin. And Democrats do love dictators. They seem to love communist dictators in particular.
Yes.
If you want some interesting history, go back and look up what happened when Reagan was trying to negotiate with the Soviets in the 80s and how many people were going behind his back to actually undermine him. So you're more right than you realize, sir.
Yes. Okay, and then
come out of the bathroom and say, I left you alone for 10 minutes. What happened when Mamacita's gone? Because by the
It's not a federal crime.
reason.
It's only a federal crime for the IG to do it. That's in the statute. So that's, you can't.
There you go.
That's in the statute.
That's a lie.
Let me show you the other
not
side.
true.
Let me show you the other side.
Under U.S. Code
Okay,
section-
stop. Everybody stop. It's hard to hear.
Under
Really?
U.S.
So
Code
finish
section
that.
1505, it is a crime.
It's not accurate. Just ask Rick Paul. He went
My
into
law
great
degree
detail
says it
on
is,
the-
but
Okay, my law degree says it. He just quoted the statute. I could pull it up, but we're already running into time. My law degree says it is. Okay, sweetheart. If your law degree incorrectly identifies crimes when the statute is cited, then I would suggest that perhaps you have a cause of action against the institution that fraudulently granted you a law degree. But I would go further to say that if you had a legitimate law degree, you would know that.
Just quick aside, I'm rapidly coming of the opinion that just like having any other certification is so that you can know how to work with, maybe even in creative terms inside that profession. A law degree is what you need in order to argue the law. Forget the fact whether or not your argument is correct. You just know enough about the law to know how to sort of bounce yourself around in between the different parameters of it. I don't think she's dumb. I think she's disingenuous. Crooked. Yeah, crooked. There's a good one.
But no, let me explain something about law degrees and sitting on the bar and practicing law. It is, in fact, a crime to practice law in bad faith. So, to be clear, what she is doing right here is not a crime. However, if she were to make this argument in front of a judge as part of prosecutorial procedure, it would be a crime for her to make this argument.
Yeah.
Nevertheless,
but he's not the individual that first.
But my question is, you did speak to him about that.
I talked to him. No, not prior to.
Okay, so I think we've had about enough of this.
Can we get to the good part?
Just a straight heckle.
Want to have a country like that? Do you understand
We've all
They don't
done
like
things.
the vessel or the semantics of it, but nevertheless, look at the result.
We've all done things that we regret. I mean, if we're talking about bringing a discourse down, Joy, you've worn blackface. Whoopie,
I'm sorry, and don't.
You said that Roman Polanski, it wasn't rape when he raped his child. So let's talk about
let's talk about this.
Okay, and those clips are out there. I didn't bother to pull them up either, and I apologize for that. But the fact of the matter is, he is 100% correct. Joy Behar did wear blackface. Whoopie did go on the whole apologist thing for Polanski. It wasn't rape, and that's,
No, he just gave a 13-year-old Quaaludes, and then she consented to letting him touch her with his penis.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not complicated. They're bad people. The people on The View are bad people. The least bad of them may be Meghan McCain, and I don't have an especially high opinion of people with the last name McCain, except for John.
No, no, I'm sorry. I think Meghan in some ways might be the absolute worst.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. But Meghan McCain exists because her mom is pretty and her dad was a senator. That's the only reason Meghan McCain has anything. And she has squandered that opportunity. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, you know what I really love about this, and it's one of the things that you really love about Donald Trump Sr., is it's so cathartic to see these things happen. Like, for the most part, I don't watch any more cable news and stuff like that, because it's just so infuriating to listen to deal with, because you'll be watching it on the TV, and instead of recycling those same talking points over and over again, you wish you could get in there for just a moment and you could hit these people square in between the eyes with the absolute truth. And so Don Jr. coming in and going, don't pretend to be the moral authority here. You've worn blackface. You've apologized for a rapist. That's the kind of thing that you or I or your average high information citizen might bring up to these people. And not just to give yourself the tactical advantage, but because it's true, because they're so concerned with taking everybody else down a peg and appearing to be the moral authority that to just get to watch somebody just sail in. I mean, it's like watching a knockout in the first round of a fight. Just boom! Oh, and somebody's kissing canvas, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So that's why Don Jr. gets the Totar Win here. We know we're a few days behind this one, but it was just too gorgeous to see him sail in and just destroy The View. Just destroy The View. because they're leftist and they project and they suck. And just one other thing real quick, just for chuckles. You know how every relationship has a reacher and a settler? Well, Don Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle, who's the reacher and who's the settler?
That's a good question. That's I mean, that may just come down to plain old net worth.
So yeah, can we have the snake dance in for in honor of Don Jr.?
Oh Jesus, yeah. Oh hallelujah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's one for you right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you this morning. 25 minutes in, we're a little deeper than we ought to be. So we will see you tomorrow morning for Firearms Friday. Be safe out there, boys. It's time to go to work. All right, brother.
Hey, I meant what I said. Meghan McCain is a flake at best.
Okay.
At best.
We should do a whole